Hey there, deep divers. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're going to discuss the developmental milestones in a child from birth till 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And to help us with this deep dive, we have a professional chart that's used by medical experts.
Oh, very cool.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like having a cheat sheet to understanding what's typically happening in a child's development at each stage.
That's great. So are we starting from like 0?
Yeah. Let's start from the very beginning, when babies are like eating, sleeping, and, well, basically letting us know when they need something.
Right. Right.
What kind of milestones can we expect in those early days?
So even in those first 3 months, there's so much more going on than meets the eye.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for example, in the gross motor domain, you'll see them extend their legs from their hips.
Okay.
And during tummy time, they'll start to lift their heads and upper trunks.
Wow. So they're like working out already.
Yeah. It's like their own mini workout.
I love it. But those tiny little necks, how do they even lift their heads?
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about building the strength they'll need for sitting up and eventually walking.
Okay.
And don't forget about head control.
Okay.
In supported sitting, their heads might bob a bit with their backs rounded, but they'll be able to lift and turn their heads left and right, taking in all the sights and sounds.
So much to see, right?
Exactly.
What about using their hands? Are they just clenching their fists at this point?
So they do have a grasp reflex at birth, but
Yeah.
even that starts evolving quickly. Watch for them to begin visually tracking objects,
Oh, okay.
following them with their eyes,
Right.
and even starting to inspect their own hands, bringing them together in a midline.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's fascinating to watch them discover their own bodies.
So are these hand movements like helping them with something?
They are actually laying the groundwork for more coordinated reaching and grasping later on.
Oh, okay.
They might bat at dangling toys or briefly hold on to something you place in their palm.
Oh, I see. I see. And I bet those moments of connection when they lock eyes with you or reach for your finger are like incredibly special for parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It reinforces that bond and shows that even these tiny humans are capable of social interaction.
Right.
And speaking of connection, let's talk about feeding. Did you know that coordinating sucking, swallowing, and breathing is a pretty complex skill for a newborn?
Oh, wow. I never thought about it that way.
Right.
But it makes sense.
Right.
It's not just instinct. They're actually learning to control those muscles and coordinate those actions.
And you'll notice their little mouths working hard, their cheeks and jaw moving as they suckle.
Okay.
They're also learning to anticipate feedings, recognizing their bottle, and developing better lip closure for more efficient sucking.
Oh, that makes sense. And of course, we can't forget about crying,
Yes.
trying to figure out what each cry means.
Parents definitely become expert cry interpreters.
That's true.
They quickly learn to distinguish between cries of hunger, discomfort, or simply the need for a cuddle.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a cuddle.
Exactly.
So much development happening in just those first few months.
Yay.
It's truly amazing. They're truly little sponges, soaking up everything around them and building the foundation for all those amazing skills they'll develop later on.
And that foundation gets even stronger as they move into the 3 to 6 month stage.
Really?
They're lifting their heads even higher, propping themselves up on their forearms during tummy time, and some might even start rolling from their tummy to their back.
Oh, okay. So that tummy to back roll, that's when you really have to supervise them.
Right.
Yeah.
It gets true. They get so much more mobile, and we have to be mindful of their newfound skills.
Right.
But these rolling adventures are also strengthening their core muscles and preparing them for even bigger milestones, like sitting up.
Okay, so what about their hands? Are they still fascinated with them?
Absolutely. They'll spend a lot of time inspecting their hands and bringing them to their mouths.
Right.
It's all part of exploring their senses and learning about the world around them. And their grasp is becoming more deliberate. They're reaching for objects with purpose, extending their arms with intention.
Wow. So no more accidental grabbing. They're actually going after the toys they want.
Exactly. And they're starting to transfer objects from one hand to the other, which is a big step in developing hand-eye coordination.
Wow.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
They begin showing the beginnings of a raking motion, using their fingers to gather smaller items.
They grab like Cheerios and stuff.
It's all about refining those fine motor skills and learning to manipulate objects with their hands.
Okay.
And this increased dexterity has a big impact on their play.
Uh-huh.
They're now able to explore toys in more complex ways, repeating actions they enjoy, and really starting to understand cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly they figure things out.
And those connections are also fueling their social and emotional development.
Okay.
They're cooing, squealing, making eye contact, and responding with those infectious baby giggles that just melt your heart.
I love those giggles.
Right.
Yeah, and I bet that deep bond between baby and caregiver is really solidifying during this stage.
It's such a special time for bonding.
Yeah.
They're seeking out interaction, anticipating those loving gazes and playful exchanges.
Right.
And they're even becoming more aware of the world around them, recognizing familiar faces and anticipating routines like mealtime.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So much is happening between 3 and 6 months.
Right.
It seems like they're hitting their stride, gaining independence, and developing those crucial social and emotional skills.
They are. And that momentum continues as they enter the 6 to 9 month stage, which is when we start to see some major mobility milestones.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because that's when we're talking about crawling, right?
It's definitely time to secure those cabinets and cover those outlets.
Yes. Baby proofing.
But before they take off across the floor,
Right.
there's a lot of development happening in preparation for that big event. For instance, by now, most babies can sit independently, which frees up their hands for even more exploration and play.
Wow. That's huge. That's like their world expands exponentially when they can sit up and engage with their surroundings in a whole new way.
Exactly. And they're also strengthening their core muscles and practicing balance, which are essential for crawling and walking.
Okay.
And speaking of crawling, did you know that many babies actually start by crawling backward?
Backward. Really?
Yeah. It's one of those quirky things babies do. It's as if they're figuring out the mechanics of movement, experimenting with cause and effect.
I love those little quirks.
Yeah.
It just shows how much thought and effort they're putting into mastering these new skills.
Right.
And while they're perfecting those crawling skills, their hands are getting even more adept at manipulating objects, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Reaching becomes more refined, and they're starting to use one hand at a time with intention.
Okay.
Their grasp continues to evolve, too, moving from a palmar grasp using their whole hand to a more precise radial palmar grasp, which involves the thumb and fingers working together.
Wow. So they're not just grabbing anymore. They're picking things up with more precision,
Yeah.
exploring different textures, and bringing everything to their mouths for a taste test.
Sensory exploration is a huge part of learning at this age.
Yeah.
They're using their hands and mouths to gather information about the world around them.
Oh, that's interesting.
And this stage is often referred to as the magical period
The magical period.
because there's so much development happening in terms of fine motor skills and object manipulation, even though they might not be fully mobile yet.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's like you're building a toolbox of skills that will serve them well later on.
exactly. And speaking of toolboxes, let's talk about those adaptive skills.
Yeah.
Babies at this stage are becoming more independent with feeding.
Oh.
They're holding their own bottles, exploring finger foods, and might even show interest in using a spoon. Oh, wow. So they're transitioning from purely reflexive sucking to more controlled biting and chewing patterns.
Right. They're also figuring out how to play independently for longer stretches, which is a big win for parents.
Yes, that's true.
Mouthing toys is perfectly normal at this age, and they're starting to respond to simple cues like no.
So I bet those cause and effect toys are a big hit at this age.
Those are definitely favorites. It's all about making those connections between their actions and the results they see or hear.
Makes sense.
We also start to see more social play emerging, like peekaboo patty cake and those contagious baby giggles that light up a room.
Oh, I love those tickles.
Right. So much development packed into those 3 months. It seems like they're really hitting their stride, gaining independence, mastering new skills, and having a blast exploring their world.
It seems like it's an exciting time.
It is, and that exploration reaches a whole new level when we enter the 9 to 12 month stage.
Really?
This is where things really get exciting in terms of mobility.
Oh, because now we're talking full-on crawling.
Those little explorers are on the move.
Babies are officially mobile, and that changes everything.
Yeah, it does.
They can finally pursue those objects that were just out of reach before, explore different environments, and yes, get into a bit of mischief.
A little bit of mischief. I like it. And as they are cruising around, their fine motor skills are becoming even more impressive.
This is when we see the development of the pincer grasp,
Pincer grasp.
which is a major milestone.
Okay.
They're using their thumb and index finger to pick up small objects, which opens up a whole new world of exploration.
It's like they suddenly have these tiny little tools that allow them to interact with their environment in a whole new way.
Yeah. What kind of things are they doing with this newfound skill?
I don't know. Tell me.
They're pointing at things they want, putting objects into containers, and even demonstrating early signs of tool use.
Wow.
They might use a stick to reach a toy or try to scoop something up with a small container.
So it's mind-blowing how much their brains are developing. From those clumsy swipes to this pinpoint accuracy, it's like watching a tiny scientist at work.
And their cognitive development is equally impressive.
Really?
They're starting to understand object permanence,
Object permanent.
which means they know that things exist even when they can't see them.
Oh, okay.
This is a major cognitive leap.
That explains why Peekaboo is such a hit at this age.
Exactly. And speaking of games, the stage brings a surge in social interaction.
Okay.
They're still loving peekaboo and patty cake,
Yeah.
but now they're also starting to engage in simple imitative play, copying your gestures and sounds.
They're like little mimics.
Yeah,
So cute.
right. And I bet they're becoming more vocal too,
Yeah,
right?
I was about to say, are they saying words?
Absolutely. Their babbling takes on more meaning and specific sounds start to emerge for mama and dada.
Oh, wow.
They're also starting to use simple gestures like waving bye-bye and even shaking their head for no.
So they're learning a whole new language, and they're becoming more independent in their self-care, too.
Yes.
Right.
They're helping with dressing, lifting their arms for shirts, and they'll even start to explore their own bodies with their hands.
So it's amazing to see how far they've come in just 9 months.
Right.
From those first tentative movements to these complex interactions and explorations, it's truly a remarkable journey.
It is. And as we move into the 12 to 18-month stage, we see even more exciting developments.
Oh, really?
This is when many babies take those momentous first steps and officially enter toddlerhood.
Walking. What a game changer.
Exactly. It's a major game changer. So we're seeing those first independent steps, maybe even some attempts at running, walking backward, and navigating stairs.
Wow.
You got it.
That's a lot.
Their gross motor skills are taking off, and they're eager to test their limits.
Okay.
They're climbing on furniture, which, as you know, can be both exciting and a bit nerve-wracking for parents.
Oh, yeah.
Pushing and pulling toys and starting to develop those all-important ball skills.
Mm-hmm. I bet throwing a ball is a particularly fun milestone.
How does that skill typically develop?
I was just about to ask you that.
It usually starts with a simple underhand toss using both hands.
Okay.
They'll often lift their foot to connect with the ball, almost like they're walking into it,
Okay.
before they figure out how to generate power and accuracy with their arms.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And as their gross motor skills are blossoming, their fine motor skills are becoming even more impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about those impressive block towers we often see toddlers building at this age?
Exactly. They're stacking those blocks higher than ever, stringing beads, turning knobs, and using simple tools with more and more accuracy.
Amazing.
Mm.
And I can only imagine the concentration on their faces as they try to master those tiny movements.
They're so focused. They're also fascinated by fitting things into spaces, like trying to solve simple puzzles or putting shapes into their corresponding holes.
Okay.
These activities aren't just fun, they're building essential cognitive skills like spatial reasoning and problem solving.
So it's amazing to think how these seemingly simple actions are laying the groundwork for later learning.
Right. And how about their play? Are they starting to engage in more imaginative play at this stage?
I was wondering about that.
Absolutely. Around this age, we see the beginnings of pretend play, though it's mostly directed at themselves.
Oh, okay.
They might pretend to eat from an empty spoon, drink from an empty cup, or brush their hair.
Oh, that's so cute. It's like they're trying on different roles and actions, mimicking what they see adults do.
Exactly. They're also becoming more aware of their own bodies and how they move in space.
Okay.
They'll explore different textures with their hands and mouths, enjoy rolling and crawling close to the ground, and delight in the sensory input of activities like swinging and splashing in the water.
So it's like their bodies are their own personal playgrounds.
Right.
Okay, and how are their social skills developing? Are they interacting more with other children at this age?
We start to see the emergence of parallel play,
Parallel play.
where toddlers play alongside each other, often mimicking each other's actions, but not necessarily engaging in direct interaction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like they're observing and learning from their peers, even if they're not quite ready for collaborative play yet.
Right. They're also becoming more adept at communicating their needs and wants.
Okay.
They might point to objects they desire, use single words like mama or dada with more intention, and even start to experiment with simple phrases like more milk or want ball.
Wow. It's such a joy to witness their language skills explode. And they're gaining more independence in their self-care too, right?
Yes. They're starting to help with dressing, removing simple clothing items like hats and socks, and even showing interest in helping around the house with tasks like putting away
Oh,
toys.
that's awesome. It's amazing to see how much they can do at this stage.
Right.
They're walking, talking, playing, and becoming more independent little humans every day.
And that's just the beginning. As we delve into the next age range, we'll see those skills become even more refined, setting the stage for even greater leaps in development.
Well, buckle up, listeners, because I have a feeling things are about to get even more fascinating.
I think so too.
Welcome back, Deep Divers. We're picking up right where we left off, exploring those incredible developmental milestones in children from birth to 5.
Really exciting stuff.
I know. Last time we left off with those newly minted toddlers taking their first steps.
It's such a pivotal moment, isn't it?
It really is.
Those wobbly steps signal a whole new era of exploration and independence.
Absolutely. So where do things go from there? What can we expect from those adventurous toddlers between 18 and 24 months?
Well, those once hesitant steps become more confident and fluid.
Okay.
They're experimenting with running, walking sideways, and their balance is steadily improving.
So they're getting better at it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But of course, there will still be some tumbles along the way.
Oh, yeah, those toddler tumbles are inevitable.
Right. But it's amazing how resilient they are. They just bounce right back up with a smile, ready for the next adventure.
They really do. And speaking of adventures, their climbing skills are really taking off at this age.
Oh, yeah, you know it.
Scaling furniture, playground equipment. Anything they can get their little hands on.
They're little monkeys.
I know. I remember my friend's son at this age. He turned their living room into a jungle gym.
Oh, my goodness. It's important to create safe spaces for them to explore,
Oh, yeah.
while also setting some boundaries, of course.
Mhm.
And while they're busy conquering those climbing challenges, their ball skills are also becoming more impressive.
Oh, really?
They're kicking balls forward, throwing them with more force, and even starting to experiment with jumping in place.
Jumping. That's got to be exciting to see.
It's pure joy in motion.
I love it. And their fine motor skills are becoming incredibly refined as well. Their hand-eye coordination is reaching new levels of precision.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
Well, we're talking about those impressive block towers we often see toddlers building at this age.
Exactly. They're
we go.
stacking those blocks higher than ever, stringing beads, turning knobs, and using simple tools with more and more accuracy.
Amazing. Do you have any favorite examples of tool use at this age?
Let me think. One that always comes to mind is using a spoon to scoop up food.
Okay.
It might be messy at first,
Oh, yeah.
but it shows their developing understanding of how objects can be used to achieve a goal.
That makes sense.
They're also becoming increasingly fascinated by puzzles,
Oh, yeah.
trying to fit things into spaces and solving those simple problem-solving challenges.
So it's like they're tiny engineers constantly figuring out how things work and experimenting with different solutions.
Exactly. And as their cognitive skills develop, their play becomes even more imaginative, right?
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Absolutely. They start to use objects to represent other things.
Okay.
A classic example being a block transforming into a phone or a stick becoming a magical wand.
Oh, my goodness. I love how their imaginations run wild at this age.
Yeah.
Everything becomes imbued with a sense of possibility.
And their social play is evolving as well.
Okay, how so?
They're still engaging in a lot of parallel play. But we start to see more interaction with peers. They might imitate each other's actions, take turns with toys, and even offer comfort to a friend who's upset.
Oh, it's so sweet to see those early displays of empathy.
I know, right? It's like they're starting to understand that other people have feelings too.
And their communication skills are rapidly expanding. Their vocabularies are growing by leaps and bounds, and they're starting to put together two-word phrases and even experiment with simple sentences.
Really amazing, isn't it?
It really is. I remember those first two-word phrases. It's like a whole new world of communication opens up.
It is. And they're becoming better at understanding and following simple instructions.
Oh, like what?
Like, go get your shoes, or put the block in the box.
And they're becoming more independent in their self-care as well, right?
Definitely. They're starting to help with dressing,
Okay.
removing simple clothing items like hats and socks, and even showing interest in potty training.
Potty training. Now, that's a milestone that most parents eagerly anticipate.
It is. It signifies a major step towards independence.
It sounds like this 18 to 24-month stage is packed with exciting changes. They're walking, talking, playing, and becoming more and more independent each day.
So much to look forward to, right?
It really is. What happens as they transition into the next stage of development between 2 and 2.5?
That's when we see those foundational skills become even more refined. For instance, those stair climbing attempts become more coordinated,
Okay.
with them alternating their feet as they go up and down.
So they're not just like scooting on their bottoms anymore.
Exactly. It's a process for sure.
Yeah.
But their balance and coordination improve significantly during this period. They're also becoming quite the little jumpers.
Oh, really?
They're leaping off small heights, jumping forward with more distance, and even starting to jump over low objects.
It's like they're discovering the joy of defying gravity.
Right. I bet those jumps are both thrilling and a little nerve-wracking for parents.
Oh, for sure. But it's so important to encourage their exploration while also providing a safe environment.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot. And speaking of exploring, their ball skills are continuing to develop as well. They're catching balls with their arms bent towards their chest, experimenting with overhand throws, and even starting to kick with more control.
Wow, so those backyard games are becoming a lot more fun.
And while they're busy mastering those gross motor skills, their fine motor abilities are becoming even more refined.
Oh, really? What can they do now?
Well, their grasp on writing tools is becoming more precise,
Okay,
and they're building even more intricate structures with blocks.
I can only imagine.
Their cutting skills are also improving,
How?
and they're developing something called in-hand manipulation,
In-hand manipulation.
which allows them to move objects within their hand without dropping them.
That's got to be a relief for parents.
Right.
No more dropped Cheerios. So they're holding crayons and markers like little artists, drawing shapes, cutting with scissors, and manipulating objects with amazing dexterity.
They're becoming quite skilled.
I bet. It seems like they're gaining more independence in all areas of their lives.
You're right. And as those motor skills develop, their cognitive abilities keep pace.
Okay.
They're becoming more adept at problem solving, experimenting with different ways to use objects, and starting to understand simple concepts like size and quantity.
So they're figuring out how things work, building more complex structures, and maybe even starting to sort objects by color or shape.
Exactly. They're also becoming more aware of their surroundings and starting to understand basic safety rules,
Okay.
which is crucial at this age,
Yeah.
given their boundless energy and adventurous spirits.
Oh, absolutely. Safety always comes first. It's a delicate balance between encouraging their exploration and keeping them safe from harm.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot. And speaking of exploration, let's talk about how their play is evolving during this stage.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What new adventures are those little imaginations taking them on?
Well, their imaginative play takes on new dimensions. They're starting to use symbols in their play, pretending that objects are something else entirely.
Oh, like what?
For instance, a block might become a phone. A stick might transform into a sword, or a blanket could magically become a fortress.
Wow, that's incredible. I remember my nephew using a cardboard box as a spaceship,
Oh, that's great.
complete with buttons and controls made out of bottle caps. It's incredible to witness that creativity and ingenuity.
They're also starting to engage in more elaborate pretend play scenarios, often acting out scenes from their favorite books or TV shows.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
So bedtime stories are coming to life right before our eyes.
Exactly. And those pretend play scenarios also provide wonderful opportunities for language development.
Oh, how so?
They're using more words, putting together longer sentences, and even starting to use pronouns and simple grammatical structures.
It's like they're learning a new word every day.
Yeah,
And they're becoming more independent in their self-care too, right?
absolutely. They're dressing and undressing themselves with minimal assistance, using utensils more effectively, and some might even be showing interest in potty training,
Potty training. There it is again.
which, as we mentioned earlier, is a major step towards independence.
It sounds like this 2 to 2.5-year-old stage is a time of rapid development, with those toddlers gaining new skills and independence every day.
Uh-huh.
It must be an exciting and perhaps a bit exhausting time for parents.
It's certainly a busy and rewarding time.
I bet. And as we move into the next stage between 2.5 and 3 years old, we'll see those abilities continue to refine, setting the stage for even more impressive milestones. Welcome back, fellow explorers. We're in the final stretch of our deep dive into those amazing developmental milestones in children from birth to 5. It's incredible how much ground those tiny humans cover in such a short time, isn't it?
It really is remarkable to witness their transformation. And as they enter the 2.5 to 3-year-old stage, we see those foundational skills become even more refined, setting the stage for those exciting preschool years.
Last time we talked about toddlers mastering stairs and turning their homes into obstacle courses. What new adventures await them in this next phase?
Well, those once wobbly tricycle attempts are becoming smoother and more coordinated. They're starting to navigate those pedals and steer with more precision, though there might still be a few bumps and detours along the way.
I can just picture those determined little faces as they conquer those tricycles. And what about those throwing and catching skills? Are they ready for the major leagues yet?
They're definitely getting there. They're
Yeah.
throwing overhand with more power and accuracy, catching balls with their arms extended, and even starting to aim at targets. Those backyard games are about to get a whole lot more competitive.
I bet those parents are dodging those balls left and right. But it's all part of the fun, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of fun, what's happening with those fine motor skills? Are those scribbles starting to look more like actual drawings?
They are. Their grasp on writing tools is becoming more precise, and they're building even more intricate structures with blocks. Their cutting skills are also improving, and they're developing something called in-hand manipulation,
In-hand manipulation.
which allows them to move objects within their hand without dropping them.
That's game changer. I remember the days of constantly picking up dropped toys. So they're holding crayons and markers like little artists,
Huh.
drawing shapes, cutting with scissors, and manipulating objects with amazing dexterity.
They're becoming quite skilled. They're also starting to show a preference for one hand over the other, the emergence of their dominant hand.
Oh, wow. And how about those ever-expanding minds? Are they starting to grasp more complex concepts?
They are. They're sorting objects by color and shape, understanding simple spatial concepts like in, on, and under, and starting to count small quantities. They're also becoming more aware of time and sequence, understanding that events happen in a particular order.
So they're setting the table, helping with chores, and maybe even trying to figure out those tricky buttons and zippers.
Exactly. They're eager to learn and participate in everyday activities, and they're becoming more independent in their self-care. They're washing their hands without help, assisting with bathing, and even starting to show signs of potty training readiness.
Ah, potty training. The holy grail of toddlerhood. It's a big step towards independence.
It is. And while it can be a challenging process for both children and parents, it's a rewarding one.
And how about those amazing imaginations? Is pretend play still a big part of their world?
Pretend play is still very much the center of their world, but it's becoming even more elaborate and imaginative. They might create complex storylines involving multiple characters and settings, and their play might reflect real-life events or their own unique fantasies.
Just watching a mini drama unfold right before your eyes. I bet their play is full of dialogue and emotion.
Absolutely. Their language skills are flourishing. They're using more words, putting together longer sentences, and
Right.
even starting to use descriptive language and adjectives. Those conversations are becoming richer and more engaging every day.
It's amazing how those little chatterboxes are soaking up language. And it sounds like their play is becoming more social too.
Yes, they're more interested in playing with other children, engaging in more cooperative activities, and taking turns more readily. Those social skills are really starting to blossom.
And their emotional development is keeping pace.
Definitely. They're better at expressing their emotions, understanding the emotions of others, and developing empathy and compassion.
It's heartwarming to see those little hearts grow. It sounds like this 2.5 to 3-year-old stage is a time of incredible growth and discovery for both children and their parents.
It truly is. And as we move into the 3 to 4-year-old stage, we'll see those skills continue to blossom, paving the way for those exciting preschool years.
So are they practically running marathons, performing acrobatic feats on the playground, and reciting Shakespeare at this point?
Well, not quite Shakespeare, but their language skills are definitely impressive. And their physical abilities are becoming increasingly refined and coordinated. They're walking heel-toe, running with a reciprocal arm swing, jumping over objects with ease, hopping on one foot, and even trying those first somersaults.
I can just picture those triumphant smiles as they master a new skill. The playground must feel like their own personal training ground.
It is. They're exploring their physical limits, testing their balance and coordination, and having a blast in the process. And
Right.
speaking of mastering skills, what's happening with those fine motor abilities? Are they writing their names in cursive yet?
I was just about to ask that. I know so many parents eagerly await that milestone.
And not quite cursive yet, but their writing skills are definitely developing. They're holding writing tools with a mature grasp, drawing shapes with greater precision, and even starting to copy letters.
So those scribbles have transformed into recognizable drawings, and they're starting to express their creativity in new and exciting ways. Are they coloring within the lines yet? That was always a big deal in my house growing up.
Coloring within the lines is a skill that develops over time, but they're certainly getting closer. They're also building more complex structures with blocks, leasing sorting objects, and showing a clear preference for their dominant hand.
It's amazing to see how their fine motor skills are becoming so refined. And I bet those cognitive skills are keeping pace too. What kinds of things are they starting to understand at this age?
They're starting to understand more complex concepts like time sequence and spatial relationships. They can follow multi-step instructions, engage in simple problem solving, and even start to grasp basic math concepts like counting and sorting.
So they're setting the table, helping with chores, and maybe even starting to tell time. Those helpful little assistants are becoming quite capable.
They are, and their language skills are continuing to blossom. They're using longer sentences, incorporating more complex grammatical structures, and even starting to tell stories with a beginning, middle, and end.
It's like they're becoming little novelists.
hmm
And how is their play evolving at this stage? Are they still engrossed in pretend play?
Pretend play is still a central part of their world, but it's becoming even more complex and elaborate. They might create entire worlds with their toys involving multiple characters, storylines, and even elaborate sets. They're also enjoying games with simple rules, engaging in more cooperative play with their peers, and starting to understand the concept of fairness and taking turns.
So we're seeing more structured playgroup games and maybe even some friendly competition on the playground. It sounds like they're really embracing the social aspects of play.
They are. And their emotional development is also progressing. They're becoming more aware of their own emotions and the emotions of others. They're better at expressing their feelings, empathizing with their friends, and resolving conflicts peacefully.
It's heartwarming to see those social and emotional skills blossom. It sounds like this 3 to 4 year old stage is a time of incredible growth and learning.
It truly is. And as we enter the 4 to 5 year old stage, we see those skills reach new heights of sophistication, paving the way for those exciting elementary school years.
Okay, so now they're basically Olympic athletes, master builders, and budding Shakespearean actors, right?
Oh, maybe not quite. But they are making impressive strides in their physical, cognitive, and social emotional development. Let's talk about those gross motor skills first. They're running with speed and agility, jumping with greater height and distance, and even mastering skills like galloping and skipping.
It's amazing to think how far they've come from those first wobbly steps. Those playgrounds must feel like their own personal training grounds.
Absolutely. They're also refining their ball skills, throwing and catching with greater accuracy, and even learning to bounce a ball.
And what about those fine motor skills? Are they writing novels and composing symphonies yet?
Not quite, but they are becoming incredibly adept with those small muscles. They're holding pencils and crayons with a dynamic tripod grasp, the most mature grasp for writing, and they're drawing detailed figures, copying their own name, and even cutting out complex shapes with scissors.
So those scribbles have transformed into recognizable drawings, and they're starting to express their creativity in new and exciting ways. It's like they're unlocking a whole new world of possibilities.
Exactly. They're also building elaborate structures with blocks, putting together complex puzzles, and showing mastery over tasks like buttoning, zipping, and tying their shoes.
It's incredible how much they can do at this age. And I bet their cognitive skills are equally impressive. Are they starting to read and write?
They might be starting to recognize some letters and words, and some may even be reading simple books. They're understanding more abstract concepts, following complex instructions, and engaging in more sophisticated problem solving. They're also developing a better understanding of numbers, letters, and basic math concepts.
So they're counting, sorting, recognizing letters, and maybe even starting to read. It's amazing to see those young minds at work.
It is. They're also becoming more aware of the world around them, asking insightful questions, and showing a genuine thirst for knowledge. It's like they're turning into little scholars.
And how is their play evolving at this stage? Is it still all about imagination and make-believe?
Their imaginative play reaches new heights of complexity and creativity. They might create elaborate storylines with their toys involving multiple character settings and even costumes. They're also enjoying games with more complex rules, engaging in cooperative play with their peers, and even starting to understand the concept of teamwork and strategy.
So we're seeing more organized games, role-playing, and collaborative storytelling. It sounds like they're really starting to grasp the power of working together.
They are, and their language skills are continuing to blossom. They're speaking in full sentences, using a wide range of vocabulary, and even incorporating humor and storytelling into their conversations.
It's like they're becoming little stand-up comedians. I bet those conversations are full of laughter and wit.
They certainly are, and their social and emotional skills are becoming increasingly sophisticated. They're better at understanding and managing their own emotions, empathizing with others, and navigating social situations with grace and confidence.
It's heartwarming to see those little humans blossom into such kind, compassionate, and capable individuals.
Yeah.
It really is an incredible journey.
It is, and it's important to remember that every child develops at their own pace. Some might hit certain milestones earlier than others, and that's perfectly normal. The key is to celebrate their individual progress and support their unique journeys.
I love that. It's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to child development.
Exactly. Every child is unique, and their developmental journey is a reflection of that individuality.
Well, listeners, we've reached the end of our deep dive into child development milestones.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I feel like I've learned so much. It's amazing to see how much those little ones grow and learn in just 5 short years.
It's truly a privilege to witness their incredible transformation. And as we wrap up, I have one final thought for our listeners. As you observe the children in your life, remember to cherish those precious moments. They grow up so fast, and those early years are full of wonder and discovery.
That's beautiful. And it's a reminder that learning and growing never truly stops. So stay curious, keep exploring, and never lose that childlike sense of wonder. Until next time, deep divers.